Hello, listeners. Have you ever, felt like you're just completely stuck at the intermediate plateau?
Oh, that is just the most frustrating place to be, honestly.
Right. I mean, do you work a 10-hour day, come home completely exhausted, and just feel like completely unmotivated to study?
Yeah, who wouldn't? Right.
Exactly. But what if the secret to fluency wasn't staring at a textbook, but simply washing your dishes?
I mean, it sounds almost like an infomercial promise, doesn't it?
Totally.
Like this concept that the deeply mundane, repetitive tasks of our daily lives could actually be the hidden architecture of advanced language acquisition.
It sounds too good to be
It
true.
really does. But when we start peeling back the layers of how the adult brain actually processes and retains new information, this isn't just a hopeful theory.
Right.
It is believed to be a highly effective, neurologically grounded reality.
And we are going to break down exactly how that works today because, your time is your most precious asset.
Absolutely.
So here is exactly what you're going to learn in the first 10 minutes of this deep dive.
Just 10 minutes.
Yep. We are going to show you how to avoid the absolute biggest trap that adult language learners fall into.
Oh, it's a huge trap, yeah.
And we'll reveal how to identify the exact moment your brain is ready to stop translating in your head and start truly absorbing the language.
And that specific transition point, moving from the clunky mechanical process of active translation to the seamless flow of natural absorption, is essentially the holy grail of language learning.
The Holy Grail, exactly.
It really is. It's the defining threshold that separates the eternal beginner who has to build every single sentence like a math equation.
Oh, I remember those days.
Right. It separates them from the fluent speaker who simply exists within the language.
Okay, I love that phrasing, exists within the language, because that is the core problem facing almost every adult learner out there right now.
Yeah, it's universally tough.
We don't have the luxury of sitting in a sterile classroom for 6 hours a day anymore.
No, nobody does.
We are all just incredibly relentlessly busy. I mean, we work these demanding desk jobs. We endure long, unpredictable commutes.
The worst commutes.
Right. And we have house chores waiting for us, family obligations. By the end of the day, the idea of sitting down with a rigid grammar workbook just feels, well, completely impossible.
Your brain is fried at that point.
Exactly. You want to decompress, not, conjugate irregular verbs.
No one wants to do that at 8 p.m.
So we need a better, smarter way. Welcome to Everyday English Flow, daily English practice, natural speaking, and effortless listening flow.
Setting that structural foundation early on is so crucial for you guys.
Definitely.
To really give you a clear roadmap of the cognitive journey we're taking today, let's look at this by the numbers.
I love the numbers breakdown.
Today, we are going to master 3 essential C1 level phrasal verbs.
3 of them. Okay.
We're going to uncover one massive game changer technique to literally double your study time.
Wow, double it.
And finally, explore 4 distinct pop culture genres to keep your motivation really high over the long term.
Having that specific numerical mission is great because, we aren't just tossing out vague theories today.
No, not at all.
We're looking at the harsh realities of adult learning, and we're going to dismantle the psychology and the practical application behind these methods so you can actually implement this the minute this audio finishes.
And that application, it has to be grounded in reality, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it is believed that adapting your study methods to the actual, messy lifestyle you already lead, rather than trying to forcefully carve out a pristine, impossible 2-hour study window every night, is the only sustainable path to fluency.
Because willpower is finite.
Willpower is totally finite. We have to design systems that just don't rely on it.
Right. And hey, if you're finding value in this, remember to like, share, and subscribe.
Please do.
And pay attention, because here's what you will learn in the next 15 minutes, so don't skip. We are going to break down the exact psychology of why kids' TV shows are, actively ruining your English progress.
Such an important point.
And teach you how to use your daily commute to actually become fluent.
Right, which brings us to a pervasive and, frankly, highly destructive trend in the language education industry.
Oh, this drives me crazy.
Me too. There is a very real, almost systemic tendency to completely patronize adult learners.
Yes, the infantilization of the language student. I see this, all the time on language forums and social media.
It's just rampant. I mean, picture a hypothetical adult learner for a second. Let's really map out his day.
Okay, let's do it.
We are talking about a 40-year-old man who works at a major logistics company.
So high stress.
Super high stress. He has just finished a grueling 10-hour shift. He's been dealing with supply chain failures, managing stressed-out employees.
Staring at complex spreadsheets all day.
Exactly, just putting out fires all day. He finally commutes home. His feet ache. His nervous system is completely tapped out, and he is mentally exhausted.
Right, he's got nothing left.
And the prevailing advice from a shocking number of language circles is to tell this highly capable, intelligent adult to go sit on his couch and watch a children's cartoon like Peppa Pig.
Okay, wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for just a second.
Go for it.
Because the logic behind that advice isn't entirely malicious.
No, not malicious.
Isn't simple vocabulary objectively good for beginners? Like, when you are just starting out, you don't know the complex words.
Right.
So isn't watching a simple cartoon essentially the linguistic equivalent of putting training wheels on a bicycle? Like, it keeps you from falling over and getting frustrated while you get a feel for the pedals.
The training wheels analogy is like the exact defense usually provided by these teachers.
Yeah, you hear it all the time.
But we really need to look at the psychological mechanics of why it fails. Yes, the vocabulary in children's shows is simple. The articulation is wildly exaggerated.
And the pacing is so slow.
Agonizingly slow. And the visual cues match the audio perfectly. But here is the fatal flaw in that approach. Adult learners will be bored out of their minds.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
When you put training wheels on a bike, the child is still thrilled because they are experiencing the brand new, exhilarating sensation of forward movement.
Having fun.
Right. When you force a 40-year-old logistics manager to watch a cartoon pig jump in muddy puddles for 20 minutes, there is zero joy.
Zero.
There is no intellectual stimulation. And language learning isn't a quick weekend project where you can grit your teeth and just get through it.
No, it takes years.
It takes years. It is an indefinite, lifelong commitment.
Let's dig into that feeling, actually, because you just hit on a C1 idiom that perfectly captures this exact state of frustration. Being bored out of your mind.
It's a great phrase.
Yeah, when we say someone is bored out of their mind, we aren't just talking about a mild lack of interest.
No, it's way more intense than that.
We are talking about an overwhelming, agonizing state of understimulation. It's that feeling where the situation is so completely devoid of mental engagement that you actually start to feel agitated.
Like you want to crawl out of your skin.
Exactly. You physically want to escape the room. So if we put that into a sentence, if I have to watch one more episode of this cartoon, I'll be bored out of my mind.
And that agitation is precisely what triggers a neurological response.
Really?
Yes. When you are bored out of your mind, your brain's affective filter goes up like a brick wall.
What's the affective filter?
It's a psychological barrier that prevents language acquisition when a learner is experiencing negative emotions. So things like anxiety, frustration, or in this specific case, profound boredom.
Wow. Which totally negates the supposed benefit of the simple vocabulary then.
Completely negates it.
Doesn't matter how simple the words are, if your brain is actively refusing to absorb them because it feels insulated or, well, insulted by the content.
Insulted is the perfect word there. Which actually ties into the other crucial piece of advanced vocabulary we need to unpack here, the verb patronize.
Let's break that down.
When we say the industry patronizes adult learners, we are talking about a specific type of condescension.
Right.
To patronize someone is to speak to them or treat them in a way that telegraphs that you think you are inherently smarter, more capable, or just more important than they are.
Even if you're trying to be nice.
Exactly. It's often disguised as being helpful. For instance, our example sentence here would be, teachers often patronize adult beginners by giving them children's books.
Yeah.
The teacher thinks they are helping, but the adult learner just feels belittled.
I really love how you highlight the disguised nature of it. It's offering help, but the underlying subtext is basically, you have the language skills of a toddler right now, so I'm going to treat your intellect like a toddler's.
Which is just catastrophic for motivation.
Oh, it's the death of motivation.
Because the adult brain structurally craves complexity. It evolved for narrative, for problem solving, for deep emotional resonance.
Right.
If the content you are consuming is intellectually starving you, your engagement drops to absolute zero and you will inevitably quit.
You can't survive on it.
No, you simply cannot sustain a multi-year cognitive effort on a mental diet designed for a 4-year-old's brain development.
So let's look at the reality of this busy adult in even more detail, because this is where the traditional studying model just completely breaks down.
Let's do it.
Let's take another profile. Consider a typical adult working a demanding desk job, maybe in like finance or marketing.
Very common.
They're sitting down all day, staring at a monitor, taking these high-stakes Zoom meetings. And because they are so incredibly stationary, they might check their smartwatch at 5 p.m. and realize they've barely taken 1,000 steps all day.
Right, and we know from physiological studies that this type of profound physical stagnation creates a very specific, heavy type of lethargy.
It feels awful.
It does. It isn't the physical exhaustion of manual labor. It is a stagnant neurological exhaustion.
Right. But this person knows that logging less than 1,000 steps is just objectively terrible for their cardiovascular health.
Sure.
It's just not acceptable to them. So what do? They force themselves to go running in the evening.
Even though they're exhausted.
Even though they might absolutely hate running, they don't run fast, they definitely don't run far, and sometimes they end up just walking half the route while feeling, guilty about it.
Oh, the guilt is real.
But they do it anyway, because it's a non-negotiable for their physical survival.
That scenario is basically a masterclass in understanding what psychologists call ego depletion.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So this person has expended a massive amount of their daily willpower reservoir just getting through the friction of their 10-hour workday.
Just surviving the emails.
Exactly. Then they drain whatever tiny droplets of willpower are left on forcing themselves through an uncomfortable, dreaded physical workout.
Which leaves them with absolutely nothing left in the tank.
Nothing.
By the time 8 p.m. rolls around, their willpower reservoir isn't just low, it is entirely bankrupt.
Bankrupt is the right word.
They have zero time and zero mental energy for boring, high-friction study methods. Like, if learning English requires them to summon intense, painful discipline to sit at a desk with a grammar book or to endure the patronizing boredom of Peppa Pig, it is just not going to happen.
No way.
The brain will actively choose the path of least resistance, which usually means scrolling social media or watching Netflix in their native language.
And this empty willpower reservoir doesn't just explain why we hate sitting with textbooks. It actually reveals a fundamental flaw in how we approach the active versus passive divide in learning.
Okay, how so?
Well, if the visual, hyper-focused active attention is completely burnt out by the evening, what happens if we remove the visual element entirely?
Ooh, coming up in the next 15 minutes, so don't skip. We're going to reveal why your brain struggles to understand English while you're driving and how to push through that exact barrier.
To truly solve this adult learner's dilemma, we have to aggressively transition away from the traditional classroom mindset.
We have to leave it behind.
We do. The ultimate solution, the mechanism that completely alters the trajectory of your language progress, is unlocking the audio barrier through passive studying.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the term passive studying almost sounds like a contradiction, right?
It does, yeah.
We are so conditioned to believe that learning requires suffering and intense visual focus.
We are conditioned that way, but podcasts and audio-only formats are an absolute game changer for intermediate learners.
A total game changer.
Think about the mechanics of active studying. You are staring at a screen or a book, writing in a workbook, and focusing 100% of your visual and cognitive attention on decoding the language.
Which takes a lot of effort.
It's highly effective, yes, but it is strictly limited by the hours in your day and the fuel in your willpower tank.
And as we just established with our logistics manager and our exhausted desk worker, you probably have a maximum of like 30 minutes of that kind of intense energy left if you're lucky.
Exactly. But passive studying bypasses that bottleneck.
How does it do that?
It allows you to layer your language acquisition over the mundane, automated tasks you are already obligated to do.
Oh, right.
So by listening to English while commuting on the train, while driving to the grocery store, while folding laundry, or while doing those evening dishes, a learner can miraculously jump from 1 or 2 hours of intense, exhausting daily study to 3 or 4 hours of effortless immersion.
It's like finding hidden time.
You are essentially reclaiming the lost transitional hours of your life and turning them into a language incubator.
Wait, I need to stop you there and push back on the word effortless. Because if there are no pictures, no visual prompts, and no subtitles to read, isn't audio-only learning actually much, much harder?
Well, yes and no.
Because when you watch a YouTube video or a movie, You can heavily guess the meaning of an unknown word through context, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Like if a character points at a table and yells a word you know it means table. With pure audio, you are completely blind. There is no crutch.
You are absolutely right, and that initial friction is exactly why it is so profoundly effective in the long run.
Because it's harder.
Yes. When you remove those visual crutches, you are forcing your brain's auditory processing centers to do all the heavy lifting. You are relying 100% on auditory comprehension.
Oh, I see.
In linguistic terms, you are aggressively training the ear. Because think about real-world application, right?
Yeah.
When you are speaking to a client on a phone call or sitting in a rapid-fire board meeting, you don't have subtitles hovering in the air.
That would be nice, though.
It would, but you can't pause the person speaking. You have to process the raw auditory signals instantly. Audio-only immersion builds the robust neural pathways necessary for that instantaneous real-time comprehension.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You're basically putting your brain's auditory processing center in the gym.
Exactly, getting reps in.
You're lifting heavier weights by taking away the visual spotter. But I really want to talk about the practical, real-world experience of doing this, specifically the cognitive load of multitasking.
Oh, this is a fascinating area.
Because I know I've experienced this exact phenomenon, and I know our listeners have too. I will be listening to an English podcast that I normally understand perfectly well.
Right.
I'm following the narrative, I'm catching the jokes, but the second I start driving and I have to merge onto a busy, fast-moving highway, it suddenly sounds like the podcast hosts are speaking an alien language.
The comprehension just evaporates.
It just completely vanishes. Why does that happen?
That is a vital point, and it's a fascinating quirk of how human cognition manages bandwidth. Think of your brain's working memory like the RAM in a computer.
Okay, RAM, got it.
When you are sitting in a quiet room listening to a podcast, the language processing software can use 90% of that RAM. But when you combine listening with a complex, high-stakes motor task like driving, your brain's processing power is literally split.
Because driving isn't a passive activity, even if we feel like we do it every day on autopilot.
Far from it. Driving requires intense visual tracking, spatial awareness, predictive modeling of other drivers' behavior, and constant micro-decision-making.
It's a lot of computing power.
Evolutionarily speaking, your brain prioritizes immediate physical survival over secondary tasks like language acquisition.
Which makes sense. You don't want to crash.
Right. So the cognitive bandwidth available for translating and understanding the audio is drastically and instantly reduced. The RAM is reallocated to your visual cortex and your motor skills.
Wow.
This is why content that you easily comprehend while washing dishes suddenly feels impossible to penetrate when you are navigating a tricky intersection.
I really want to address you directly on this point, listener, because this is where so many learners quit.
They get so discouraged.
They do. If this audio feels deeply challenging or frustratingly opaque while you are driving, or while you are navigating a chaotic, crowded train station, trust that it is completely neurologically normal.
Very normal.
Do not panic. Do not feel like you are regressing or losing your skills. Give it time and it will get easier. Your brain is simply learning how to juggle the cognitive load.
It is a process of neurological acclimatization.
Acclimatization.
Yes. Over time, as your driving skills in that specific scenario become more automated, your brain will require less RAM for the physical tasks, slowly freeing up more bandwidth for the audio processing.
So you just have to stick with it.
The key is persistence. You must endure the ambiguity. You must not surrender to the frustration of not understanding every single word.
Which brings us to the psychology of persistence, and specifically to our next C1 phrasal verb, which is give up.
Oh, this is a crucial one.
Now, obviously, giving up means to stop trying to do something, usually because it feels insurmountable, or to stop a deeply ingrained habit.
Right.
But it's not just about quitting a piano lesson. It's about the friction of changing a behavior.
Exactly. The phrasal verb give up often implies a struggle against a compulsion or a long-standing routine.
To give you a highly relatable, slightly funny context for the nuance of this phrase, let's imagine a hypothetical vegetarian.
Okay, a vegetarian.
They're incredibly strict about meat. They absolutely hate the idea of it. No beef from cows, no pork from pigs, no chicken, and absolutely no fish or shellfish like crab, lobster, or shrimp.
Very strict.
The very thought of eating those things repulses them. However, they are not vegan. They eat eggs, and they eat a massive, frankly unhealthy amount of cheese.
Cheese is hard to quit.
They put heavy cheese on literally everything they cook. They know, logically, for their cholesterol, their digestion, and their overall health goals, they really should give up cheese.
But they can't do it.
But they just can't. The habit is too pleasurable and too deeply wired into their daily routine.
That is a perfect illustration of the psychological friction involved. The logical desire to change is present, but the behavioral loop, the cue, the routine, and the reward is deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
In the context of our language discussion, the struggle isn't about cheese, it's about the internal translator. The example sentence would be, I tried to give up translating in my head, but it's an incredibly hard habit to break.
Oh, that is the ultimate universal struggle for the intermediate learner.
The translation trap.
Giving up the safety blanket of internal translation. You hear an English word, you translate it to your native language to verify its meaning, and then you try to translate your response back into English.
It's exhausting.
It's so exhausting, and it makes you lag in real-time conversation. But if you keep leaning into the audio, if you keep saturating your brain with that passive listening during your commute, you will eventually give up that translation habit naturally.
Because you have to.
Right. The sheer speed of audio forces you to drop the translation step just to keep up.
And in the next 15 minutes, we'll dive into the fascinating world of British accents and how pop culture icons can actually accelerate your language learning, so don't skip.
Okay, we have thoroughly mapped out the mechanics of how to study passively and the cognitive load involved.
We really have.
Now we need to transition into what actually happens when you immerse yourself in the language, specifically regarding the complex world of accents and identity.
This is such a great topic.
Because when you remove the visual crutches, the nuances of an accent become incredibly magnified.
This is truly a linguistic masterclass topic because accents are wildly misunderstood.
They really are.
They are not just a random collection of phonetic sounds or regional pronunciations. They are profound, complex markers of identity, geography, and social history.
Wow, yeah.
The way we physically produce speech telegraphs to the world who we are, where we belong, and our social background. And for an advanced language learner, understanding the nuance of accents isn't just a party trick. It is crucial for high-level, real-world comprehension.
Let's use a highly specific British example to really explore the mechanics of this, because the UK is famously dense with incredibly diverse, highly localized accents.
Oh, incredibly dense.
You can drive an hour and feel like you're in a different linguistic universe.
Indeed. It is believed that you can drive merely 20 miles in some parts of the UK and encounter a completely different phonetic system and local vocabulary.
Just 20 miles.
Let's take someone born and raised in Cornwall, down in the far, rugged southwest of England.
Okay.
The traditional Cornish accent is distinct. Crucially, it is rhotic. This means they pronounce the R sounds after vowels, much like standard American English, which is quite unlike the non-rhotic pronunciation of much of modern Southern England.
Interesting.
However, the linguistic reality is fluid. That same person from Cornwall might not utilize a strong traditional Cornish accent in their professional life.
They tone it down.
Yes. When they are teaching in a university or working in a high-stakes corporate environment, they might subconsciously adopt a more typical, generalized Southern English accent or even begin to sound a bit London.
Now, this fluid shifting between linguistic identities is what sociolinguists call code switching. Right?
It is the essence of code switching. Code switching is the practice of alternating between two or more languages, dialects, or even just registers of a language in conversation, heavily dependent on the immediate social context.
Depending on who you're talking to.
Exactly. And what's vital to understand is that it is almost entirely unconscious. It is the brain's rapid, real-time attempts to build social cohesion and adapt to the environment.
So to map that out for our listener, if this professional goes back home to Cornwall for the winter holidays and sits around the dinner table speaking to their childhood friends and family, that rhotic, traditional Cornish accent comes rushing back natural.
Unconsciously, yes.
The hards get harder, the vowel sounds shift.
Yeah.
But if they've been living in London for 4 years, let's say they were studying history at the London School of Economics, their daily, relentless interactions with Londoners naturally blend their accent to sound a bit more metropolitan.
Right.
Obviously, they aren't adopting a full traditional East End Cockney accent, but their speech becomes heavily influenced by the rhythm, the pacing, and the vowel shifts in the city.
That environmental absorption is exactly how language evolves within an individual lifespan.
It's fascinating.
When you live in a dense, diverse place like London, Or when you study at an international institution like the London School of Economics, you are completely surrounded by a melting pot of competing dialects.
It's a total melting pot.
Your brain, inherently seeking social harmony and highly efficient communication, subtly, continuously adapts its output to match the surrounding frequency.
So what does this deep dive into code switching mean for you, the listener? It means you should never panic if a specific accent suddenly throws off your comprehension.
Please don't panic.
If you understand an American podcaster perfectly, but struggle with a Scottish guest, it is not a failure of your English.
Not at all.
An accent is simply a reflection of a person's complex life map. And more importantly, it proves that language is deeply tied to identity.
Completely tied to it.
Which leads to our next massive point. To survive the multi-year marathon of language learning, you have to find content that maps onto your own identity, your own humor, and your own passions.
This is the absolute core argument of sustainable learning. You must ruthlessly integrate the target language with the things you inherently love.
Ruthlessly integrate.
Yes. It is believed that focusing on creative writing like reading short fiction, exploring modern poetry, or analyzing deeply opinionated editorial articles, or immersing yourself heavily in pop culture, makes the language stick in the brain in a way that dry, sterile textbooks never, ever will.
Because emotion dictates memory. That is the neuroscience of it.
Exactly.
If you deeply care about the narrative you are listening to, your amygdala tags the associated vocabulary as important for survival.
It flags it as essential.
Right. For example, if you love music, drama, and interpersonal conflict, you shouldn't be listening to a podcast about generic business English.
That would just be so boring for you.
You could listen to an incredibly immersive audiobook like Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's a fictional oral history of a 1970s rock band.
Such a good example.
It's structured entirely like a documentary interview. The dialogue is incredibly natural, filled with interruptions, slang, and overlapping speech. And you get so sucked into the emotional drama of the story that you completely stop realizing you're actually studying. The language bypasses the affective filter entirely.
Or consider the incredible linguistic power of celebrity and music fandoms.
Oh, fandoms are huge for this.
Following the careers, the live interviews, and the broader cultural impact of pop stars provides an endless, highly engaging stream of contemporary English.
And it spans across generations, too. You could be totally obsessed with the cultural impact of 2000s pop stars like Britney Spears.
Oh, definitely.
Watching her archival interviews from 2003 is a goldmine for catching the specific slang, cadence, and media training of that specific era.
It really is a time capsule.
Or you might follow modern alternative groups like Cat's Eye. And here is the beautiful secret to this strategy. You don't even have to genuinely like their music.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You might just find their public personas, their unhinged interviews, and their group dynamics psychologically fascinating.
It is entirely about finding a narrative hook that pulls you in. Modern solo artists like Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Roan are phenomenal linguistic resources right now.
They're everywhere right now.
They really are. Their lyricism is exceptionally clever, often relying on double entendres and cultural references.
Right. Lots of wordplay.
Their media appearances and late-night interviews are packed with cultural idioms, and the intense online discourse surrounding them on platforms like Twitter or TikTok is a masterclass in everyday, highly contextual conversational English.
And following pop culture naturally leads to some really funny, universally relatable moments of cultural observation.
Like what?
Like the bizarre phenomenon of mistaken identity in Hollywood.
Mm.
Have you ever noticed how sometimes the public and the media just arbitrarily compare blonde pop icons purely based on aesthetics?
Oh, all the time?
For example, I've seen people comparing a brand new, modern indie pop singer to Avril Lavigne, who is obviously the iconic 2010s pop punk star, just because they're both white women with blonde hair.
That makes no sense musically.
It doesn't matter that their musical genres, their vocal styling, and their personal aesthetics are completely fundamentally different.
It is a classic human cognitive heuristic. We lazily categorize based on superficial visual similarity.
It's just lazy formatting in the brain.
But here is why that matters for a language learner. Engaging with these specific cultural conversations, even the seemingly silly, trivial debates about who looks like who or who copied whose style, requires a remarkably high level of linguistic nuance.
It really does take skill.
You are actively navigating humor, sarcasm, complex comparisons, and cultural shorthand. You are learning how native speakers argue and joke.
Let's lock in some vocabulary from this pop culture segment because there is rich language here. The phrasal verb I want to highlight is look back on.
To look back on something means to intentionally think about a specific event or period that happened in the past.
So not just remembering.
No, it's not just remembering a fact. It usually carries a heavy sense of reflection, evaluation, or nostalgia.
For example, when I look back on my early frustrating days of studying grammar rules, I realize how much my listening comprehension has actually improved.
That's a perfect use of it.
It's a fantastic phrase for acknowledging your own journey and the passage of time. And the specific, highly utilized adjective we want to highlight from that segment is iconic.
Iconic is an adjective used to describe someone or something that is not just famous, but highly recognized, widely admired, and represents a particular time, place, or cultural concept so perfectly that it becomes a symbol.
It represents a whole era.
Exactly. Avril Lavigne's aesthetic, in the specific context of 2000s and early 2010s mall goth pop punk, is truly iconic.
All right, as we smoothly navigate into the final teachings of our session today, I want to take a moment to relieve some pressure.
Pressure relief is good.
Because I want to remind you that consistency in your multi-year language journey does not always mean rigid, punishing scheduling.
This specific mindset shift is a tremendous relief for many burnout learners.
A huge relief.
The pervasive belief that you must sit at a desk and study at exactly 7 p.m. every single day for exactly 1 hour is a guaranteed recipe for cognitive burnout.
It just doesn't work.
It ignores the reality of adult life. The most successful long-term adult learners adopt what we call the as and when philosophy.
I absolutely love this concept because it aligns with everything we've discussed about willpower.
It really ties it all together.
Let's break down this idiom deeply because it is so fundamentally useful for native-level fluency. As and when.
The phrase as and when means doing something whenever you naturally have the time, the energy, or the opportunity to do it, without it being chained to a strict priority or bound to a rigid, inflexible schedule.
So no set calendar.
Right. It implies a high degree of flexibility and opportunism. You don't force the moment. You take advantage of the margins of your life as they spontaneously arise.
To give you a clear example sentence outside the realm of language learning, let's go back to our tired professional trying to exercise.
The guy forcing himself to run.
Yes. I don't have a strict military-style workout routine. I just go running as and when.
Ah, okay.
What that means is maybe you wake up early on a Tuesday and have the energy to run. Great.
Awesome.
And then maybe life gets chaotic and you don't run again until a quiet Saturday afternoon. You fit the habit into the natural margins of your life rather than forcing your life to fit around the habit.
And you absolutely must apply this exact philosophy to your podcast listening and your passive studying.
It applies perfectly.
Engage with your audio episodes as and when you commute. Listen to an audiobook as and when you find yourself cleaning the house or folding laundry.
Whenever you have a spare minute.
Exactly. If you miss a day because you are fighting a cold or you had to work late or you are simply too mentally exhausted, there is zero guilt.
None at all.
There is no broken streak on an app to lament over. You simply pick the audio back up again as and when you can. This aggressively removes the psychological friction and the toxic guilt from the learning process.
Toxic guilt is the worst.
It is. It transforms English from a demanding, stressful chore into a flexible, low-pressure companion in your life.
It is the difference between trying to force a massive river to flow in a straight, unnatural, highly engineered concrete canal versus letting that river naturally find its own way around the rocks and the landscape.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
The water still eventually gets to the ocean. The goal is still achieved. But the natural path requires so much less painful engineering and forced force.
That is a profoundly accurate metaphor. The integration of a second language into your adult life should feel organic, adaptive, and fluid. It should not feel industrially engineered.
And speaking of organic, deeply rooted integration, it is time for the final, most impactful part of our deep dive. As promised at the very beginning of the show, here is your bonus tip for the end of our session.
We have spent an hour dissecting habits, auditory processing, the cognitive load of driving, the nuance of accents, and the magnetic pull of pop culture.
We've covered a lot.
But if you want to know the absolute deepest, most unbreakable psychological trick for adult motivation, you have to look beyond media.
Beyond media?
Yes. It is believed that the ultimate, unbeatable language learning hack is genuine human connection.
Wow, human connection.
For example, imagine a scenario where someone starts learning Spanish completely from scratch at 22 or 23 years old. Not for a job, not for an exam, but simply because their new partner is from Spain.
Oh, that changes everything.
Having a deeply personal, fiercely emotional reason to learn a language, the desire to connect intimately with someone you love, to speak with their parents, to understand the cultural nuances of their childhood, will beat the discipline of watching kids' cartoons 100% of the time.
Every single time.
Love, deep friendship, and genuine burning human curiosity are the ultimate inexhaustible drivers of fluency.
It literally changes the entire chemical makeup of why you are studying. You aren't just memorizing vocabulary lists anymore. You are desperately learning how to translate your soul to someone you care about.
That's beautifully said.
Now, I have a specific challenge for you to test what you've absorbed from our deep dive today. Based on everything we discussed regarding passive studying, cognitive load, and audio immersion, I want you to explain the idiom game changer in your own words and use it in a natural English sentence in the comment section below.
It is an incredibly powerful, widely used word in professional and casual settings, and actively producing it, typing it out and contextualizing it will help cement it deeply into your long-term memory.
And if this session helped you train your ear today and provided you with actual usable strategies, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Flow.
And to prove you made it through the dense cognitive mechanics to the very end of this listening flow, I want you to write exactly this phrase. I stay committed in the comment box right now.
We genuinely love seeing who is truly dedicated to the long-term journey of fluency.
I will leave you with this final provocative thought to carry with you today.
Let's hear it.
Language acquisition isn't just about mechanically memorizing a dictionary of new words. It's about the profound task of translating your true identity, your specific interests, your unique sense of humor, the intricate details of your life, into a brand new frequency. Which hidden part of your identity are you going to translate next?
We'll leave you to think about that. Keep listening, keep growing, and keep the English flowing. Until next time.